Hello guys and gals, and welcome to another episode of Unique Items. Today we're going to be going over one of the new Barbarian uniques, and this is the Ugly Bastard Helmet. Please don't give me a warning, YouTube. I swear, it's the name of the item. I'm not just cursing. Even though the game, for some reason, thinks you're cursing, because if you link the helmet in chat, it doesn't censor it in clan chat, but it does censor it above your head, which is also pretty hilarious, to be perfectly honest. The Ugly Bastard helmet, though, is very good. It is a very good helmet, and we're going to talk about why it's a really good helmet and go over everything together today. So first off, it does have some pretty nice bonuses. As you can see here, mine is masterworked to 4. You know, let's go ahead and reset the masterworking. I got a bad masterwork on it anyway, so it's not going to hurt me to reset it. And that way we can see the base stats. Honestly, the stats on the helmet are not the greatest, except for a couple of them. But the actual, like, unique effect on the helmet is probably where most of the bonus is coming from. And we'll dig into the unique effect deeper later, but let's go over the base stats first. So right off the bat, you see it has fire resistance on it. I don't really know why they gave this helmet fire resistance. I mean, I know thematically it makes sense from that it's from the Hells, and so you would want fire resistance if you were in Hell. But fire resistance is the one resistance I think the Barbarian has the least trouble with out of all of them, because peppered all throughout the board is tons and tons of fire resistance. If you take a look at my fire resistance right now, I'm currently sitting at 39.7% over cap. And when I put the helmet on, I'm now at 80.1% over cap on fire resistance. It's absolutely ridiculous. And honestly, I didn't even really take all the fire resistance nodes on the Paragon board. I was really just going for the maximum fire resistance nodes, which is where you get the most benefit. And even then, I still ended up like overcapped by quite a bit. It also has a lucky hit bonus of up to a 40% chance to deal up to 6,750 fire damage, which is thematic for the item because, of course, it's going to help you with your fire damage. With the greater affix on that is actually really high. I think it's like 12,000 fire damage or something for the lucky hit. And there could be something there, like adding in just a huge amount of fire damage to your attacks with the lucky hit bonus. If you get like a greater affix and like triple masterwork it can go really, really high. I don't know exactly how high it goes, but very, very high. I've already triple masterworked one by accident that was not even a greater affix, and it already exceeded like 12,500 fire damage. So if it was a greater affix that started at 12,500, you could imagine that it's going to go really high. All in all, though, it's just a lucky hit proc of fire damage and not really the most important thing on the helmet. It also has a huge amount to Prolific Fury, as you can see mine with a greater affix of 7. Prolific Fury is not really the greatest one on here, but can be helpful if you're trying to do, like, say, a weapon mastery build or something of that kind, because Prolific Fury does give you a bonus to your generation of your resource. So as long as you have your berserking active, you get a nice fury generation bonus, and that's going to help you in terms of like any skill that you want to spam as much as you can possibly spam it. So any resource that you're going to have coming in from any source is going to be greatly increased as long as you can maintain your berserking, which should be really easy on the Barbarian anyway, because there are so many ways to maintain your berserking on Barb. Now, the really good one on here is the aggressive resistance. Aggressive resistance goes up to 2, and the greater affix, I believe, is 3. But you can definitely get it a lot higher than that. And aggressive resistance is also related to berserking, and it's the one that gives you damage reduction while you're berserking. So as long as you can keep your berserking active, you're going to have a pretty large amount of damage reduction. And getting this to a really high rank is definitely very nice. As you can see, mine only has +1, but even with just +1, I go from 16% to a nice 20%. And you can easily have 3 on here. So an additional 16% on top of the first 16%, which is going to bring you up to around 32% damage reduction from while berserking, which is really, really nice. Now, the special effect on this is casting Wrath of the Berserker causes you to explode. dealing up to 1,833 fire damage. Now, this is a separate mechanic from the second part, and a lot of people have kind of confused the two. So I'm going to clarify it here. They're not the same. So the second part is a separate function, and we'll talk about that in a second. Now, when you cast Wrath of the Berserker with this helmet on, you get basically a pump of fire damage, which just spreads out from you, and it's rather big. That's what she said. It's a huge pump of fire damage that just goes out and hits all the targets around you, which could be useful for a myriad of things. I haven't tested to see if it works with Pain Gorgers, but it could be interesting for Pain Gorgers as well, if it functions that way. Now, the second part, it says, while berserking, your direct damage dealt is converted into fire. So this means that anything that is a direct damage attack is immediately converted into fire. Now, I have tested this with bleeding effects, and it does not convert bleeding into burning, which is something that I was interested in. And obviously, it says direct damage, but I wanted to test it anyway. So for those of you who are thinking about maybe trying to use an Ugly Bastard helmet to convert your bleeds into burning damage, it doesn't really work that way. However, it does convert all physical damage into fire damage, which is very effective, and it also gives you a multiplier to all of your fire damage bonuses. So you get an 80 times multiplier to your fire damage, which is a lot of additional fire damage, and it stacks up very nicely. To give you an idea, this is my current crazy Rupture Barbarian. Let's go ahead and play around with him for a second. And as you can see, my numbers are pretty high. Like, they're not bad. But putting on the Ugly Bastard helmet is going to convert all my direct damage into fire damage. Rupture is an ability that applies direct damage by essentially removing bleeds and then causing that bleed to then stack onto the target, which gives you a pretty nice bonus, right? So even though it's not affecting my bleed damage, it still is affecting the physical damage by converting it into fire. Then it's giving me the bonus damage to the physical damage, which is being pulled from the bleed, and it actually does a pretty large amount of damage. So let's try this again from the perspective of the Ugly Bastard helmet.
Mr. Goody Two Shoes, Mr. Goody Two Shoes. Ginger Evil Mentor here. Why bother farming when you can go to MMOEXP.com and simply purchase your items in gold? GGM would have you farm the items. What a pathetic being. Use code GEM Ginger Evil Mentor for 6% off your entire purchase. And don't tell Ginger Gaming Mentor that I was here.
As you can see, my bleeds are not going up in damage, but the amount that I'm getting from the ruptures themselves is going up, which is very nice. And honestly, as far as I've been able to see, the Ugly Bastard helmet might just be the strongest helmet for the Barbarian at the moment, because of the way that it multiplies out your damage, and it gives you some absolutely crazy bonuses. And it also seems to double dip. And I kind of want to like go over what I mean by double dipping. It's a little complicated, but let's kind of like write it down on a little notepad here so we can make it make sense, right? So if you have an attack, let's say you have an attack that's like 1,000 damage, and it's a physical damage attack, right? And you have a bonus that gives you like, I don't know, an additional 100% physical damage. That's going to turn your physical damage attack into 2,000. Then you convert it into fire damage, at which point it's then running through the motions a second time. So it's getting a nice, like 80% multiplier or whatever from being converted into fire. So it's taking your 2,000 and turning it into more like, what is that? Like, let's just run the numbers directly instead of what they actually are, because it's a bit easier this way. So it's probably going to be something like 2,800, or no, 8. It would be 800 plus 800, which is 1,600, so 3,600. So you'd be talking about 3,600 fire damage. Well, you can also have bonuses to fire damage. So you can have things like of the elements, which I'm currently running right now, which is a 53% times multiplier, as well as other things like you can have additive bonuses, which are going to increase your fire damage. Depending on like what character you're on, you can have, say, like frost burns or various other things that are going to add additive bonuses, as well as increasing the of the elements bonus, which is going to give you more that way as well. Which means that things like a pair of frost burns is going to come in very handy for this, because frost burns has a huge amount of additional fire damage, which in that case then gets multiplied by the way that the of the elements works. So let me show you how this functions. So if we have, say, 52.5% fire res, fire damage, right? So I put these on, it's now 273.1. However, when the of the elements switches to the element that it's actually utilizing, for instance, the fire, you see my fire goes up to 469% additive. So there are ways that you can increase your fire damage additive and your fire damage multiplier to increase the damage from the ugly bastard helmet a second time. So now imagine we have another 100% bonus here. Now we're going from 3,600 to, what is that, 7,200. Which means that the ugly bastard helmet at the current point, how it's working, is actually feeding your stuff through the original calculations, then converting it into fire, and then you're getting it fed through a second set of calculations, which makes it double dip into two different pools, which means you're getting a massive amount of increase. A lot more than you would think, actually. And that's one of the reasons why, at the moment, it seems like the ugly bastard helmet is probably one of the best helmets for the barbarian, pretty much bar none. Because it's a flat 80% bonus for the multiplier, but the conversion from physical to fire also comes with it some very interesting connotations, which is your physical damage stuff is still applying, and then the fire damage stuff is applying after the conversion, and it's multiplying the damage just very, very well. The special flavor text on this says, "Ah, the burning hells, you look like one of Zolmog's inbred bastards, Variana." Now, I would be remiss if I didn't at least show you what this helmet looked like. So let's go over to the wardrobe, and I gotta show you what this helmet looks like, because it's ugly. I mean, it lives up to its name. It's not a pretty helmet. That's not it. That's the Air of Perdition. This is the ugly bastard helmet. No lips, lots of teeth. Exactly what you don't want. The helmet itself is just dirty. Like it's like dirty steel. Like somebody just never cleaned it all their life. And even got a little blood on the tips of the horns there, with just these like ugly non-symmetrical spikes like sticking out all over the place. I don't even like the fact that they're not symmetrical, I think, just adds to the ugliness of the helmets. And of course, if you take off the helmets, I mean, it doesn't like mess up your face or anything, but it's definitely a very ugly helmet. Let me say that much. I mean, they nailed it. Like graphically, the helmet is it's a very ugly helmet. All in all, I do think that the ugly bastard helmet is a very good addition to the Diablo 4 Barbarians arsenal, and it's gonna let you make some really interesting builds. I mean, not only can you get like crazy amounts of fury regeneration through the prolific fury, lots of damage reduction through the aggressive resistance, as well as a really high amount of Wrath of the Berserker cooldown from the Wrath of Berserker cooldown reduction, which, if you get a greater affix on that, actually does go pretty high, which can help you keep your Wrath of the Berserker up with almost 100% uptime, which is going to be really powerful in terms of, like dishing out damage. Also, of course, you get the explosions. So the Wrath of the Berserker causes you to explode. That's going to happen more often if you bring the cooldown as low as possible. Unfortunately, right now, it's a pretty expensive helmet. I can't seem to find a good one for the life of me, and this is like the second best helmet that I've found so far. I actually have a slightly better one on my other character, but none of them are like super duper amazing. They're currently like very expensive on the trade sites. If you want to pick one up, it's from Grigore. Grigore is the location for the ugly bastard helmet, We go to the Barbarian, and we click on Ugly Bastard Helmet. This is Diablo 4.life, by the way. And as you can see, he's missing, but it is pretty sure it's Grigore. Let's do a quick double check on that. Or is it Zir? I think it's Zir. Never mind. It's definitely Zir. Because we were farming Zir yesterday for it. That's where we managed to get it from. Just want to verify, since this is for the official video. You can also gamble it too, which I've been trying to do. The gambling is actually pretty good this season, but one of the main issues with it is that, you know, it's very rare to get an ancestral version. And on top of that, it's also very rare to get one that's an 80% multiplier. So that's also an issue. I just want to verify the drop location before we continue. Mm-hmm. 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 Yeah, it's Lord Seer. Exactly what I thought. We were farming Lord Seer yesterday. We must have farmed him like 100 times and nothing. Like, I think Leon got like one good helmet with 2 greater affixes. Most of the ugly bastard helmets we got were not really the greatest. I've got a couple of them in here. Like this one right here, which rolled with the lucky hit on the fire damage. As you can see, it's 10,125 fire damage for the lucky hit if you greater affix it, which is kind of interesting. I also have this one, which is the 7 on the prolific fury. And I think I've got one on my other barbarian that rolled the aggressive resistance. That one is +3, I believe, but I'll show it off anyway because it is interesting to find out the greater affixes on the items and which ones that you want to shoot for. So as you can see, this one is +3 to greater aggressive resistance, and that's the what I was talking about earlier with the I accidentally triple greater masterworked the fire damage, and it's 13,200 fire damage, which is just stupid amounts of fire damage. And also you're getting an 80% multiplier off of fire damage. So there's also kind of an interesting thing here with the helmet where the chance to deal fire damage kind of like feeds into that 80% multiplier and gets multiplied because all fire damage is multiplied by 80% multiplier. So kind of neat. I also kind of wanted to check and see if... Where's the damage with fire? Bleeding, poisoning, burning. And it doesn't have any effect on that. I think that's pretty much it for this helmet. It's a very good helmet. Very sought after this season. It's rare, hard to come by. Something that you're going to have to hunt and try and find. Even if you go on like Diablo.trade and you try and purchase one, I mean, good luck. They're going to be like 10, 20 billion to get yourself a decent one. So, good luck. I know I've been struggling to get my hands on one of these. And, I mean, I must have had like 30 of these helmets in my inventory at one point, and every single one of them was just depressingly bad. I mean, we're talking like 60% multipliers or like the worst rolls on everything. I don't think I got a single 80, by the way. Not a single 80 the entire time I was running. I got some like moderately okay ones, but no 80% multipliers. As always, I do appreciate you guys and gals joining me for these videos. If you have any questions about the helmet, I'll be happy to answer them. And as always, keep watching.